Welcome to The Thing About Witch Hunts. I'm Josh Hutchinson.
And I'm Sarah Jack. Today we're thrilled to have Peter Mintir Amadu returning to share updates on his vital mental health work in Ghana.
Peter is the founding director of Total Life Enhancement Center Ghana and a clinical health psychologist who's been on the front lines of addressing one of the most overlooked human rights crises: women accused of witchcraft in northern Ghana.
Since we last spoke with Peter, his organization has received 5 awards and expanded their innovative mental health model. But the need remains urgent, with crowds of women living in witch camps or refugee camps, many for over 20 years.
Peter shares the realities these women face, the mental health crisis affecting entire communities, and what meaningful international collaboration is possible. Let's welcome back Peter Mintir Amadu.
Welcome back to the podcast, Peter Mintir Amadu. Please remind us a little bit about your expertise, where the Total Life Enhancement Center is, and what it's about.
Good. Thank you very much. My name is Peter Mintir Amadu. I hold an MPhil in clinical health psychology and currently a PhD candidate for clinical sciences and clinical health psychologist, a lecturer, and the founder of Total Life Enhancement Center Ghana, TOLEG, a mental health and psychosocial support service organization. I'm also a visiting psychologist at the Tamale Teaching Hospital and the vice president of the Ghana Psychological Association, and a mental health and psychosocial support service consultant for several organizations. So this is who I am, and this is what I have been doing very passionately. Total Life Enhancement Center is a premier mental health and psychosocial support organization with a twin approach into advocacy and intervention. Founded on the 5th of June 2018, focusing on youth, women, and the marginalized in society, with a broad concept areas like mental health, peace building, livelihood empowerment, and mentorship. So we have been functioning in the area of advocacy, therapy, project, and training, with our mental health thematic areas being mental health advocacy, provision of psychological services, counseling services, emotional intelligence and management, livelihood empowerment or capacity building, and mental health research. Research, we want to be, our decision to be driven by data that inform our engagement. We have grown from an advocacy organization in 2018 and expanding its borders into other spheres of mental health. Advocacy, training, rehabilitation for young people with substance use, provision of therapy, and now on the tangent to provide training for lay individuals in the area of psychology and mental health. And that is one of the biggest things we're trying to do. TOLEG has a number of mental health professionals, psychologists, psychiatrists, social workers, psychiatric nurses, community mental health officers, and a cross-section of volunteers within different disciplines who believe in our model of mental health intervention. So we are really working very hard to ensure that every corner of our community accesses mental health services appropriately. And we were established in 2018 for this. Low level of mental health literacy, huge treatment gap, limited resources, poor funding, lack of commitment, and the issues of professionals within the community in which I operate. And so this is the brief I would want to say about TOLEG. But I must say that TOLEG has, over the last few years, been recognized as an outstanding mental health and psychosocial support organization in Ghana. And just this year alone, we have received 5 awards for an organization that is projecting mental health and psychosocial support in Ghana. And we have had the leverage, but we have also had a few challenges in the area of mental health literacy, stigma, inadequate professional, huge substance use among the youth, and limited funding. But what has been driving us is what I call our PDC approach: passion, dedication, and commitment. So in brief, this is what we have been doing for the past few years now.
Congratulations on all the success. That's really wonderful to hear
Thank
that you're
you.
achieving those accomplishments. And you've been visiting the women in the so-called witch camps
Yes.
in northern Ghana.
Yes.
What is the full weight of what people face when they're accused of witchcraft in northern Ghana? What happens to them?
Yes. So thank you very much. This is a very significant question for me because we are often on the ground. And when you talk about the full weight of what women accused of witchcraft in my community looks like, it's the issue of trauma and fear. They don't know who will attack and who will do something harmful to them. So the concept of fear, uncertainty, doubt, and the loss of autonomy is the experience of the women in my community regarding accusation. Deep-seated stigma and shame. Shame to the woman accused, shame to the children of the woman accused, shame to the family, and shame to the community, especially those closer. So that's a stigma and shame is deep-seated. And so to the point where people do not even want to associate with close relations of any woman that has been accused. So the weight is that some women who have been accused have had their family members disconnected from society in one way or the other when it comes to even religion, relationship, or even productive activities. Loss of property and livelihood is often the weight that some of our women, because these are women who are often doing very well. And so out of this accusation, what it means is that business in which they were in, they have to leave it and run for safety or for life to a place where they will call the camps as we have them in Ghana, because that seems to be more safer than their natural environment in which they were. And so sometimes some of them who have been in business or have been in farming, maybe the accusation comes at the time you are harvesting. What it means is that you have lost your toil, you have planted, now it is time to harvest, especially in the farming season. And this accusation can, what it means is that this woman have to basically run, leaving the place. And so their livelihood is affected. And so the way also is that a good number of them end up not having the best of support. They also lose what I call family and community connection. These women, after the accusation, what it means is that family members do not have access to them. Some of them may have children who have little ones, and the grandma perspective, the elderly mother in the family is lost. And some of them cannot even go back to the community. And what it means is that they are not able to connect with the community members to enhance their potential. Then we often will have what I call physical assault and injury. And I'm sure you will have followed the Ghanaian story about the Equiabente about 5 years ago. What basically happened to this woman was physical assault resulting in injury that ended her life. And that is the experience of a cross-section of women who, in one way or the other, try to justify that I am not what you think I am. And the community coming in with another dimension of, this is what we say it is, either we take that or we leave some harm onto you. So the physical assault is there, the injuries is there, then economic exclusion. So many of the women that have been accused often do not have the economic power to continue to do whatever businesses or agricultural related activities that they used to do. Then comes also the area that I have been focusing on, hugely on mental health issues. So the issues of trauma, the issues of depression, the issues of anxiety, and chronic stress, often very high. And we have had the opportunity of doing assessment in these communities. And the statistics regarding PTSD, depression, anxiety, and stress, you'll find that almost more than 60-70% of the women may score higher for each of these mental health construct. And so you can find 60% or even 70% expressing symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. And sometimes even as high as 80%. Our latest data indicate that even 90% of the respondents were experiencing depression, anxiety, and stress. And this, I would say, is the weight of the experience of women. And beyond that, that also have what I often would call social and economic loss, displacement from community. Most of the women experience breakdown of the family unity, because this was, some of them come from very stable families. And sometimes when you hear about the experiences, it is a concept of, maybe for lack of a better word, jealousy in the community. This is a woman that is doing well, who probably has some support system. So they try to tag you in a way. So what it means is that they break down the family unity. Then long-term poverty, because many of the women that I have encountered for the last 5 years, many of them are living in what I would call abject poverty. Abject poverty in the sense that even for where the next meal will come from, when they are not fine, where they can get even a health facility to visit becomes a challenge. And so maintenance of their well-being is also a challenge. Barriers to connecting with society and the interaction of productivity, also what I would call multi-layered emotional and physical harm is the experience and the weight of the women who have been accused of witchcraft in my community, in the Ghanaian community. But let me also state that some of the communities, because we have been able to label about 5 different communities that seem to have this challenge. And this houses close to 500 women. And this means that these are 500 mothers, 500 grandmothers, 500 sisters, aunties, and that leaves a huge weight on some of the families that are experiencing, and for the women themselves who had a lot of potential for life, but just for this accusation, that potential is cut short. And so hopelessness set in for these women.
Thank you. Thanks for helping us understand what these humans are experiencing because of these false accusations. You mentioned the hopelessness. Does hope come back to them? What do they say they want for their future? Do they see a future? How much time does it take to help them feel hope?
Yes, so in terms of what they hope or what would them the realities is that most of the survivors of this accusation, their hope for the future is that they wish a better and a safer life for themselves, for their communities, and for especially their immediate family. They wish a reconnection with family and children, because for some of them, they stayed in the camps for close to 20 years. And sometimes no child even comes to visit because of the threat in the community. If you go and come back, we will also probably ask you to leave the community. Or you go and you are feeding your mother or your auntie or your whatever with some information. So there's often that fear to want to connect. Then they want to gain what I call economic empowerment. Many of the women that have accepted that state, even though it is not what they wish, but they often just want, what can I do for myself? And thanks to the caretakers of the communities in which they are, some of them are able to get a parcel of land and can do farming. And so they're able to sustain themselves in one way or the other. But what I have engaged them and what they tell me is that they wish to say that they have a parcel of land which is able to be supported with some what they will call agriculture-related input for them to do farming, harvest something at the end of the year, the farming season, to take care of themselves and for their needs. This, I would say, is one of the things that they are looking for. Including what I've told those that they're talking about. Because sometimes some of them have come to the term that it is not enough to come and give us a pack of food for today. What happens to me tomorrow? They want own capacity to be built so that they can be able to take care of themselves, waiting for when they will leave or those camps will be closed one day. Then they have what we call justice. They seek justice and community acceptance. Because sometimes, because of lack of justice, a lot of them are going through one challenge or the other. So some of them think that if there is justice, it means that I will be heard. And if I am heard, I will get the community acceptance and I will go back to my community and feel safe to live my life till my creator sees enough of my life. That's what they are looking out for. Then, having worked in the mental health space, what I also see a lot of them needing is that some of them need the support of mental health intervention. Our recent visit about 3-4 months ago, one of the community leaders tells us, I have been here, but since you access this community, I have seen a change in the way my people are living. And what simply that means is that this is an area where they hope that if we can intensify our intervention, they know the trauma is there, but how we are able to help them to live with the trauma, to adjust with the trauma, makes life better in the community for them. And the caretaker tells me, at least the troubles I used to go through, it look like there is some relief now. And we are hoping that we can be able to provide advocacy, community-wide advocacy, carry out community-wide intervention to educate the current generation so that this issue of accusation will come to an end soon, because people need information. Sometimes some of the accusations come by virtue of somebody feeling awful about you. And the reality is they can't even substantiate. So they go to the chief palace and the chief makes pronouncement. And per that pronouncement, as a woman, you have no say. And that becomes very difficult for the woman who has no voice in the community. What it means is that once they see it, it is final. You have to deal with it. And these are the things that they want to see happen. Advocacy is one of the things. We should go to the community, we should go on the radio, we should go to the schools, we should go to the organization and let people understand that what has been happening in this our community, it cannot be substantiated. And so if there is knowledge, many more will come to the point of saying that no, this is not real. And if it is not real, what can we do to support these women? So this has been what the women are hoping for and how they want to see their future. So putting it, first, they want economic empowerment. Next, they want the best of support in terms of their mental health. And they also think that there is a need to educate a lot of more people. After ignorance, some of them have been accused. So they want a process where there can be more education to help them to be able to deal or live freely instead of being under fear.
Thank you so much for that. How is TOLEC responding to what the survivors are experiencing?
Yes, TOLEC response has been diverse. Diverse in the sense that our first encounter at the alleged witch camps in Ghana was to do an assessment. Following that assessment, we've since been very deliberate about this group of people in our community. So we have realized that the issue of trauma, the issue of depression, anxiety, stress, PTSD is high among these people. And what it means is that mental health is not well understood in our community. So we then said that if even among the general population, which the Ghanaian literature says that about 98% treatment gap in Ghana, that's what it stands. And less than 200 psychologists practicing in our system and about 100 psychiatrists. What it means is that if the general population lack this information, lack this kind of services, you can imagine what is happening to people we call excluded from our communities. So we then decided that we wanted to put in an intervention for the women who have been excluded, and they have become like a special project for us. Whether funded or not, every year we want to go in there and provide some level of intervention. And that is what we have been doing at the level of TOLEC. So after the assessment, we have done interventions almost every year, and sometimes even quarterly is what we go. And then we are also doing a lot of advocacy. We are linking up to policy makers, part of the network that is championing the legislature that is seeking to criminalize this concept in Ghana and also to make free these individuals, they can express themselves. So we have been involved at the organizational level, championing our technical skill because psychology is my area. So I bring in psychologists to support them. Then I know not everybody will appreciate. So we need to go onto the radio, go to the communities to educate. So many more people will come to appreciate it. Then we're also connecting with other CSOs, like-minded organizations that are championing this to share light and to put our efforts together towards getting that bill into force and ensuring that it is active and working very well in our community. So I told it, these are the few things we have been able to do. And I would say that we have also been on the anti-witchcraft advocacy, building coalition with like-minded organizations and engaging stakeholders on the anti-witchcraft bill, working on livelihood empowerment opportunities and seeking support because we are hoping that what we have done, we have been able to provide some relief in terms of mental health. But beyond that, as one of them said, yes, my son, you have come. We have heard you. But the truth is, I am angry. How do you ensure that even what message you have given me, the hunger that I am feeling now doesn't take away that information away from me? And that struck me very much. And since then, I have been thinking, what is it that we can do so that these women during the farming season can get a parcel of land supported with some agricultural input so that they can till the land and take care of themselves. Go into small businesses or skills building for financial independence. Also working on economic integration and strengthening dignity and reliance of these women in our community. So that's just what we have been doing and we want to do more. But the reality is that many of the women will ask the question, mental health, it is true. I am able to sleep now, but when I sleep and wake up, I'm hungry. What happens to me? And so the economic empowerment is the model that we want to shift our attention to beyond the mental health. Because once they have accepted the message, the other way is to ensure that they are able to sustain that message by not going into other things that can affect their well-being. So our next model of intervention is to look at the livelihood empowerment. But I don't want the concept where we are basically going to the community and carrying a bag of rice to them, carrying some water to them, but we want them to constantly be able to generate their own income. And this is by building their own capacity. Because if I send you a bag of rice, whatever it is, even though that woman is alone, but it may not take you more than a year. But if I am able to build your capacity, you can grow your maize, you can till the land in the dry season to do dry season vegetable farming. What it means is that you will have been building the capacity of this woman for a longer period. Of course, we can continue to mainstream our mental health, but they have a livelihood support. And that's one of the things we are hoping that in each of these 5 communities, we can be able to possibly pilot this livelihood empowerment and scale it to reach out to these 500 individuals that we do know who have been accused in one way or the other in our Ghanaian community.
And for this economic empowerment, do these women have the skills already for gardening and for producing from the land, or do they need skills training for that?
I would say if you look at the Ghanaian population, and especially the majority of people that have not been in school, farming has been a source of their livelihood. And many of these women in these camps have been part of this group of people. So whatever it is, they're able to till the land, they're able to get the right time to plant, and when they harvest, they know how to store. What they may need, I would say, is because we want to maybe bring some level of technicality in their way of living. So what it means is that, yes, how then do you ensure you do the farming at the right time, harvest at the right time, how to store it, and possibly creating a value chain for them. So if the person has harvested like 20 bags of maize, they don't need 20 bags of maize as a family. What they need is to convert this into capital, to send them to the hospital, to probably buy ingredients. So creating the agri value chain for them is one of the things that we're hoping that if we're able to get all of this, so that would be the training area they will need. But for the farming and tell them of the land, these are the concepts that they do have. But maybe to enhance it is to say that we will need more agric extension officers attached to these women so that they can do the right type of farming, the right type of cropping, and the appropriate harvesting to ensure that their fruit or the produce do not go waste or spoil along the line. Then we can add up the agribusiness to this concept to ensure that we are connecting them to either to the schools, to the hotels, to buy their produce and put money into their hands to take care of themselves and their needs.
Peter, I'm wondering, for those women who would have the opportunity to leave the camp when it is safe, possibly due to the legislation changing or for whatever other opportunity would allow them to leave, would they be able to then have that economic empowerment outside the camp for themselves, or would it transition well into their community life outside the camp?
Yes, so currently what we're hoping or working on with the legislation that is happening, many of them can do very well even outside the camps. Even in the camps, what it means is that some of them are being restricted. Restricted in the sense that the camp and the overlord of the camp, what it means is they have a very small space. And so sometimes it can become difficult. So it means that what happens to them, they work on the farm of the caretaker, and who then also supply them a little support to feed on, to live on. But some of them who were already doing farming in one way or another had lands to themselves. And that those lands, even though some have been taken because they have stayed there for long, but there's still space that if they go back and have been accepted into community, they are able to get farming land to be able to continue the trade that they know. So they can do very well outside the camps, because even the camps, they are being restricted because of space and the nature of the number of them who are there. And so the farming activity that not even go very well for them.
Yeah, that's really important. All of the things that you're working towards to empower the women to live lives like they had before they were accused, to get them back to some sense of normalcy is very important for them.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. What are you working toward with your December conference and your upcoming activities?
Yes, thank you. The December conference was excellent. I presented on last week, Thursday. That was on the 4th of December, was when I had my presentation. And this was to the Mental Health Without Borders Global Exchange Conference 2025. And I was asked to present on the mental health landscape of Ghana, local innovation, seeking international collaboration. So I use that as a great opportunity to project to NEC and what we have been doing in the last few years. I also tried as much as possible to highlight Ghana's economic gains, because I am looking for collaboration, and people need to be sure that they are coming to a land that is safe, a land that is welcoming. So I told them the story of Ghana and how stable we are as a democracy and how hospitable our environment is, and attractive areas of our country, looking at the forest reserve, the animals. Basically, there's a place where you can just go and you are engaging with either the elephant or some bush animals, as though they are part of the environment, because these have been kept in such a way that with the help of the guards, often do not place any threat at all to people who visit. So I told the global community about Ghana and what Ghana stands as a nation and how much we can collaborate to make an impact, especially on the mental health landscape of Ghana. I also told the international community about the University for Development Studies, the premier university in the northern part of Ghana where I work. So beyond project, which I often describe as passion, my bills are paid at the University for Development Studies, because that is where I apply my trade as a psychologist. And this university has stood out in the recent past as one of the best universities in Ghana, in terms of teaching, academic work, staff engagement, student support. Very outstanding. And it is one university that combines community work with academic. So most of our students, even after first degree, are able to connect with the community. So when it comes to posting to rural areas, perfect. Our students have been number one, accepting posting to places where there's no light, sometimes to places where water becomes an issue. But because as part of their education for 3 years, they will go to the same community, come out with a project to help the community. So they're able to adjust very well. And then whichever level you are, for the 3 years community service, you often will do. Then I also mentioned about this university that we have started training medical doctors just in the last few years, but the numbers are still limited. One thing we don't have currently is to train psychologists in that university. And this is one thing I am hoping that with a collaboration from a university outside the country, we can get the faculty needed to begin the training of more psychologists who will stay in Northern Ghana and project mental health in the way that I wish we had the level of resources. Then we have also then projected TOLEC and what we have been doing and what TOLEC has been doing as a first mental health and psychosocial support organization based in the North, which is now initiating lay counselors training for schools, civil society organization, and the religious, and then providing specialized psychological services. So TOLEC as a leading advocacy on harmful cultural practices, one of them being the accusation that we have just talked about, but also projected TOLEC interventional areas. What have been the areas in which TOLEC have intervened in our society? I talked about our trauma-informed care. I talked about our mental health and psychosocial support in peace building, our school-based mental health advocacy, support for the alleged, which is that it was significant for me, a vulnerable adult in our community, issues of sexual and gender-based violence. And today we mark the climax of the 16 days of activism, where we are climaxing with the Human Rights Day, where we are telling the story. Everybody deserves the space to operate. It doesn't matter who they are and where they are. The reality is that people need the support in order to make the best out. Then we have also veered into what I call prison mental health and psychosocial support. I told the community about what we do in the prison. And with this, we got a little grant in 2024 from the United Nations Office of Drug and Crime to implement a mental health and psychosocial support services in 6 out of over 15 prisons in Ghana. And so going in there and providing that intervention, we told the story, another neglected population. So we told the story and people are beginning to appreciate what our individuals in our prisons do need and how we can support them. Then we also told the story of maternal mental health issues. Many of our Ghanaian women do not really have any mental health assessment during pregnancy. And so we have been projecting this, and in May, we often will call them as the Maternal Mental Health Month, where we are projecting. And so I told the community what we've been doing every year in May. In May, it just happened to be the month. But beyond that, we tried as much about visiting health facilities, antenatal clinics, and providing intervention. And we are hoping that we will get to a point where Ghana can rectify or can make use of the WHO standard of every pregnant woman having 3 mental health assessments before delivery, which doesn't easily happen. What we do is that at the first trimester, you are supposed to do a few more of laboratory investigations, but nobody does anything mental health. And so that is an area where we try to project our ideas to also support them. I also told them about what our concept called PsyConnect. PsyConnect is our online version of what I call teletherapy or tele-mental health services. So we try to use that as a conduit. Many Ghanaian young people have internet access, and internet penetration in Ghana is very high. So what it means is that when you go onto the social media, you are able to reach a lot of young people. And so we use that as a medium to talk to the young people, especially the issues of substance use, which is very rampant in my community. So we often want to use that as a medium. So using the radio stations, using the TV stations, and also the traditional or the modern day social media handles like Facebook, X, and then just to tell the story because they are there. And we need to find a way of reaching out to them because that is where you can easily get them and they will hear you because once you use a system, a concept that they understand, they are more likely to be with you. Then I also spoke to them about our research. Our activities have been driven by the data that we have gathered. Because in 2018, when we started, everything was about advocacy. And following that advocacy, then came the idea that people needed intervention. And we realized that if you needed to do that intervention, you really need to employ more professionals. But in our community, the professionals are not there. Hence, the reason why we are beginning a training for lay persons, teachers, CSOs workers, and religious leaders to have a little understanding. Because Ghana is generally highly religious, as we often would put it. So if the man of God at the pulpit will say something about mental health, if the man of God in the mosque will say something about mental health, then we can't be going very well because almost every Friday and every Sunday, many people are being led to the mosque or to the church. So what happens in the church? Beyond the Bible, can we tell the story of the mental health experience? So that's the sort of training we are hoping to do. Even though I don't have the full faculty members, I am hoping that I will be able to borrow from other regions who will come as part-time facilitators to train a few of our people who will then become lecturers or tutors for this intervention that we are trying to roll out in our community. And the whole idea is to improve mental health literacy and make service really available for the people of the North, and by extension, the entire Ghanaian community. Then another thing I mentioned at the Global Exchange Conference was our model. Over a period of time now, we have developed a model I call the ART-LE/PE model. What does it stand for? A stands for advocacy, R stands for rehabilitation, T stands for therapy, LE stands for livelihood empowerment and positive engagement. This, we think that if we really want to get people to appreciate what mental health is, number one is advocacy. You need to go to the community and explain it in the way that they will understand it. Many of them, after they have understood it, will need some support. And so we say that sometimes some of them come very late, a reason why they will need what I call rehabilitation. Then through that rehabilitation process, we need to have a continuous intervention therapy. But beyond that, when you do mental health intervention, excluding the livelihood empowerment, which I have introduced during the engagement with the alleged witches, what it means is that you won't have a full-term impact. As the woman asked me, what happens to me? I am hungry. You are saying something nice, but I cannot even hear you. So the livelihood empowerment component feed deeply into our intervention. But we're also saying that sometimes someone knows it's not about livelihood. It's about connection. And so hence, we're talking about positive engagement. So this model have driven the interventions in Tulek. And that was one of the things I also projected to the international community, saying that this is a local innovation. It's made impact. We are only working in few regions in the country. We're hoping to expand this to cover all the 16 regions of Ghana. But do I have the resources? No. But one thing I know I do have is a passion and enthusiastic team members. So the international community hearing us who want to invest in this is something that we are excited about so that we can carry this to our schools, to our organizations, and to our communities to ensure that issues of mental health are well appreciated. But I have come to say, put it very squarely, when I think that I often put the statement, mental health is one of the greatest needs of our time, often neglected in our development space. In terms of discussion, all that we're looking for is productivity. But what is productivity when there is a lot of absenteeism in our workplaces? What is productivity when there is the whole concept of presenteeism? The teacher is there, but he's not teaching. He has come and written his name, so he will be marked as having come. But what is the level of intervention he has for the children for that particular day? Nothing. And so this concept, I think that I'm just hoping that I can push to the level of policy and understanding. But the beautiful thing is that we have a very beautiful law governing mental health practice in Ghana. And that talks about community intervention. So where we don't want to institutionalize, but we want to deal with individuals at the community level so that community can play a role. And that is that connection that where this model is trying to see and emulate so that we can expand this in Ghana, in Africa, and can go globally with this model and can probably present the best of data for the global community when it comes to what is it that we are doing in Ghana as regard mental health. So this, I would say, have been our intervention, or what I have actually told the global community about the mental health with our Borders Conference, Globalization Conference 2025.
Thank you so much, Peter. So, yeah, you've done a really great job today. Thank you for sharing all of this and really helping us visualize the efforts that are going on, the needs that are there. When we talk about meaningful international support, because you are giving the data, you're telling the story, what should an individual organization do to join you? What is meaningful support? What does that look like as an action and engagement?
Thank you very much. This is a question I actually look forward to putting a response to. So what is that meaningful intervention, or what will meaningful international support look like for us or for the work that we do? And I think partnership is one of the things, because we do have the cultural context. We have the local expertise. Partnership in terms of technical support, training, and in enhancing the capacity of my team members is what I think that a meaningful international support will look like for me. Strengthening our advocacy for ending issues of witchcraft accusation, improving mental health literacy in our communities, and making services available. So I am anticipating that people listening to us can be able to collaborate with us towards this, and also issues of infrastructure. As I speak now, I will say that we have tried as much as possible to have the best of script. People come to the facility and I'm like, wow, you have all of these. But I wish we had something more than what we do. But at least what we do have, we are making use of it and people appreciate it. But we are thinking of, can we get other local or satellite infrastructure? Even though we are based in one city, can we say that in one of the regions, we have a satellite office where people can go out there, not necessarily do it online, but physical presence to be able to. So we are looking for that international collaboration to have satellite offices in some of the regions. Well, I won't say I want all, but at least in some few regions, so that the impact that we are making in the northern part of Ghana can be felt elsewhere. Then I also think that in this technological era in which we are, our side connect can become meaningful if we can get the best of gadgets in order to be able to enhance our mental health opportunity, or what I call the side connect, and then also a global exchange and capacity building opportunity for the people that we work with. But let me also say that when you ask this question, one concept I've presented somewhere else came to mind. Why? Because I had presented earlier to another group, and I was saying that one of the areas they are looking for in terms of collaboration is what I call the 8 approaches and 12 opportunities for international collaboration. Because strategic opportunity for international collaboration can support TOLEC greatly in a culturally grounded mental health and acquisition approach, and enhance service usability and in each of our Ghanaian regions. And so I say that the capacity building of our staff is something that I think is needed. And under that, I look at the global local training partnership. North-South collaboration is what I'm looking at. We have the local expertise. When we get some touch with what is happening, best practices somewhere, I'm sure we can do even better. And then what I call the cross-border mentorship and e-learning opportunities is an area. So after this, then comes the research, evidence generation, and knowledge exchange. And that comes with two more opportunities: joint research to tell our story. Data system for implementational science is one of the things I think that we globally or collaboratively we will be seeking for. Integrating programs and integrated programming and system strengthening. Inclusion of the TOLEC model in humanitarian and developmental framework. Co-creation of culturally appropriate toolkit so that we are able to tell our people understand this language. How then do we use that to access them? Issues of technology and digital mental health innovation, global, local, digital mental health collaboration. Then financing and sustainability. I haven't been put the issue of finance when I'm talking about what is it that I want first. I often make it toward the tail end because we have a certain local resource that we can harness. What we really need is a little bit of capacity building so we can turn what we have, which our people do understand, into something meaningful for them instead of important sub-concepts that they don't even understand and feel. So this is one of the things that I have been pushing for. So joint fundraising and global investment. And I am beginning to think that we, as an organization, to begin to look at establishing as a social enterprise where we are able to use our leverage, make a little income, employ it back for the less privileged. Because I go to the community, and this year, thanks to the opportunity you shared, Inawara came on our aid and provided us about $500. And that $500 really reached out to a lot of people. Because we were able to go to communities, and they were so excited that we have been able to do more than what we have been doing. So if we get that opportunity to continue this activity, what it means is that collaboration like this will be very, very helpful for us. So that's the fundraising part. And we're thinking that if we can even then get to a point where Tule can become like something like a social enterprise, we're generating our own income, employing it back to the less privileged in society. Then we are looking at advocacy and global solidarity, international advocacy alliance, where we are advocating for culturally harmful practices and also advocating for mental health in our community. Then the cross-cutting sectorial collaboration, because obviously one sector cannot achieve it all. We need everybody on board. So integration of mental health into our educational sector, into our employment sector, and above all, into the general economic sector. Then we're looking at cultural diplomacy and exchange. That's the A for now. We're looking at opportunity number 12 being cultural healing and exchange programs for our communities. Because some of our women are well endowed with some skills. How do we ensure that even one community can move to the next? But when they are moving, how do you facilitate that? So we want to be able to say that from community one that is termed allied witches camp and community B, how can they share ideas and continue to exist? But we can only do that if we can be able to move these people between their communities. I will call for collaboration because people may have resources that we do not have. And that is an area that we're hoping that we can be able to leverage on and make the life of our people better. But at least as an organization, the leverage we have gotten and what we have been able to, what we stand for, all that we do need now is the best kind of support. And I'm sure many more people in Ghana will understand what mental health is and enjoy the services as and when they do need them.
Thank you so much for joining us today, for letting us know about all these important concerns. This is just such an important issue, the topic of mental health in general, and of course, the women in the camps. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about today that you haven't had a chance to speak to yet?
Yes. What I have to say is an appreciation. Appreciation to the End Witch Hunt nonprofit, because when you identify that, I said this was a global community that we have come, and I just the encouragement and the frequent connection with other global communities. I want to appreciate you for connecting us to the people that can really make meaning in the life of the vulnerable that we work for and we work with. Because at the end of the day, your connection have given us a lot of leverage. People listen and I listened to this podcast and I was excited about your presentation. I said, yes, somebody made that possible. And then the International Network Against Accusation of Witch Hunts and Rituals Attack in Awara. In fact, connecting with them was just like a blessing, because I put that proposal to, and I didn't even know how I got that through. And the email came, you have been successful. And that gave me a lot of excitement. So I have first expressed my appreciation, but whichever way we will read them to say that Tolek in Ghana is excited about their support, and we are hoping that we can collaborate going forward in the near future. Then I will also want to appreciate my own team members at the Tolek, because these have been phenomenal. Because this is a work I can't say I'm doing alone. I don't even want to assume it. But their help has been something phenomenal for me, because I put together a team of psychologists and they are ready to go even when I don't even have something like a compensation for them. I just put a car and they are ready, okay, I'm ready to go. And that is so refreshing. I get a radio station, I go there for an activity, and the next time I'm not able to go, who is available and somebody is ready to volunteer? And they don't even ask, how much are you ready to pay me? And that is quite refreshing. So I want to use your medium, even though I keep telling my team members, I want to use your medium to appreciate them for these years of dedication. I can only tell them that there is more better days ahead. Let's keep united. Then I also want to appreciate the communities in which we have worked in, especially the 5 communities that are housing the so-called alleged witches camps in Ghana. The leaders have been quite phenomenal, especially from the government functionaries to the religious leaders and to the camp caretaker. We have enjoyed a lot of leverage from them, and I will want to use your medium once more to appreciate them and to say that this is our little mite, our widow's mite we're given, and we want to do more in the year 2026. We only can ask for their further collaboration and connecting us to the right people. And above all, I know that this surely can be taught when you dedicate yourself to a certain cause. There often will be a certain part of you that suffers. And that's, I want to say, appreciating my family, my wife and children, because they really donate me to society. And that I don't take for granted, because they can understand that I will have to travel when they need me. But I want to use this opportunity also to thank them for giving me the peace of mind. And we often will say it in the Ghanaian parlance, all that I do is by the strength of somebody who is supernatural, God. And I must admit that the health, the knowledge, the connection, and the experiences that I have, I think is a gift from Him. And I often say that what is knowledge when that knowledge is not dished for another person as a meal? It doesn't make meaning for me, but the next person it makes meaningful. And so giving out to people is something that I think that is a gift, and I want to give it back. And God has given me that strength, that help to continue to do this. And I want to appreciate Him, the Alpha and Omega, and hope for more good health and strength. I won't ask for money. It will come when it will come. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Your expression of appreciation across all the intersections of your work, all of those individuals, it's powerful. It's genuine. We also want to extend our appreciation to each of those workers and your family. But it also really demonstrates that it takes all these people, all of us, so many individuals, but together there is power. It feels slow sometimes. Mental health needs is a massive crisis across the world. witchcraft accusations is an extensive crisis across the world, but we can address it together a step at a time. And thank you for giving us such an important talk today, and for also demonstrating who the people are who need support and who it takes to get the support there. Thank you so much.
Peter, thank you so much for rejoining us and sharing these important updates. The work you're doing is truly transformational.
This discussion was a great demonstration of how mental health support requires addressing the whole person, their trauma, their economic security, and their dignity.
For our listeners who want to learn more about Tolek Ghana or explore partnership opportunities, we'll have links and contact information in the show notes.
Thank you for listening, and thank you, Peter, for your dedication to this critical work.
Have a great today and a beautiful tomorrow.